Here's today's First Word Daily Devotion.
It's January the 11th, and we're continuing to follow the story of Abraham, just captivated by the way that God deals with this patriarch. And here we see Abraham in Genesis chapter 20 making some of the same mistakes that he made earlier. He's saying again of Sarah that she is his sister. And notice we have in verse 12 a little reason or a reasoning for Abraham continually saying that she's my sister. Well, we learned that she is indeed his sister, the daughter of my father, though not the daughter of my mother, and she became his wife. But notice this. Notice that despite of Abraham's disobedience, there is still a promise. And not only is there a promise, there is the provision that God gives. There is grace that covers. There is a God that continues to pursue. Look, for example, at verse 3. It says, but God came to Abimelech in a dream by night and said, Behold, you are a dead man because of the woman whom you have taken, for she is a man's wife. And so here is this Lord. Here's Abraham making his boneheaded mistakes again, but God coming and providing. And of course we have echoes of Sodom and Gomorrah here in this passage as well. Abimelech had not approached her, so he said in the dream to the Lord, Lord, will you kill an innocent people? And the answer to that, from we learned from Sodom and Gomorrah, is no, he won't. And so God says this in verse 6, I know that you have done this in the integrity of your heart, and it was I who kept you from sinning against me. Therefore I did not let you touch her. There again, who's in control here of this narrative? It's God Almighty. But pay attention to verse 7. We learn something very special about Abraham. Look at the way the Bible designates him. Verse 7. Now then, return the man's wife. Look at this. For he is a prophet. So that he will do what a prophet does. He will pray for you, and you shall live. And look exactly what happens in verse 15. Abimelech said, Behold, my land is before you. Dwell where it pleases you. And then verse 17. Then Abraham prayed to God. And there again, notice who is the hero of the story. Abraham prayed, but God is the one who healed Abimelech and also healed his wife and female slaves so that they bore children. Now, isn't this interesting? Here is Abraham and Sarah longing for a baby. And here is Abraham able to pray for Abimelech's family. And God hear the prayer and answer the cry and provide a child. But remember, until this point, Abraham is childless. But then we have chapter 21. The Lord visited Sarah as he had said, and the Lord did to Sarah as he had promised. Who's the hero? And Sarah conceived and bore Abraham a son in his old age, at the time of which God had spoken to him. And we see again God caring, this God of compassion, caring for Hagar and Ishmael, a promise that God has for Ishmael, though it's clear in verse 12, through Isaac shall your offspring be named. And then we close this section of looking at Abraham for today. At verse 33, we see Abraham worshiping. Abraham planted a tamarisk tree in Beersheba and called there on the name of the Lord, the everlasting God. And Abraham sojourned many days in the land of the Philistines. And then we turn our attention to Matthew, where we see Jesus continually teaching on the Sermon on the Mount, and he reminds us about our wants and desires, not to lay up for ourselves treasures on earth where moth and rust destroy. And then he reminds us plainly at verse 21, for where your treasure is, there your heart will be also. And our last reading today from Psalm 11, The Lord is righteous. He loves righteous deeds. The upright shall behold his face.